Okay, here's something real quick I wanted to let some people know about, and it's probably not discussed too often, but I got a private message about lubricating balance jewels and what is the technique that I use. I really haven't posted anything because I just did a link to somebody who does it the way I do it, I think. But here's and this also goes into discussing very small parts. I have a jewel here, a jewel for a balance and a capstone, and this screw here is from, let's see, what is that from? Pallet fork bridge on a Vostok 2400. When you manipulate screws or pick them up, I like to pick them up from their threads. If you try to pick them up from the head this way or turn them around and go for the head that way, they can fly apart. They can take off. They can launch into outer space before you know it. What I want to emphasize also, I have one good set of tweezers, a Dumont number 2 anti-magnetic, and they are quite precisely made, and they're great for picking up things. When you do pick things up, sometimes you got to turn them over. I'm going to zoom out here a bit. And one thing I practiced, believe it or not, when I started doing this, I practiced it because it was a necessity, is grabbing onto a screw, and let's say I want to turn it, but I don't want to turn it. Let's see, how do I want to put this? You want to turn the tweezers. You want to rotate them in your hand, but you also want to maintain tension so you don't drop the screw. So you practice picking the screw up and maintaining that tension with your tweezers. Not so much tension that you squeeze it so much it flies out, but enough that you don't drop the screw or the component you're turning. This might take a while. You just tinker around with a screw you don't need or something you don't need, and if you lose it, well, you should have a backup. Believe it or not, it is a technique that is worth practicing when you have a good set of tweezers. It really helps. It took me a while to get a hang of this and to not be afraid. I just practiced on small parts that I didn't need or I had plenty of, like screws and jewels. You pick it up, you rotate it around, and you maintain that tension and such. So that's a little talk on small part manipulation, let's call it. Now, jewels. Here is the one jewel that we lay into the balance, and that's going to get a capstone on it. Let's turn that over. There's another way to practice. There you go. That's the underside of it. That is a tech that whole thing there of picking that up like so, maintaining tension on the tweezers, rotating it around. That's an invaluable technique. Have I sprung a few of these away from me? Oh, absolutely. But I practiced with parts that I knew I had plenty of. So let's move that off to the side. The capstone. There are two sides to the capstone. There's a flat side, which goes into this bore, and that's what you're looking at right now, is the flat side. Now, another technique for flipping, if you can flip your capstone without losing it, you're doing pretty good. Let me give this a try. No, I didn't do so good. That is the flat side. There is the domed side. That actually has a domed surface. Convex, I guess you would call it. It may not be showing up here, but that is convex. You can see the way the light reflects. That is a convex surface. That would go just like that. Drop that right in there. Look at the light pattern when I turn it over, how it looks this way. The light pattern is very flat. You don't have any of that convexness, I guess you would call it. Is this a silly thing to talk about, manipulating stones? I don't think so, because it helped me. And I read online that practicing manipulating your small parts with a good set of tweezers will help you in the long run. It gives you that confidence to pick up something so tiny, and if you don't have a replacement, it's kind of valuable. You know, what are you going to do if you lose that bugger? So we have flat side up right there. You can see the reflection. Look at that reflection. It's flat. We're going to leave it flat side up. Here's how I lubricate a jewel. Whoopsie. I'm just dropping caps to my oil. I take the smallest oiler I have and 90-10 oil, and we're barely putting enough on the oiler. And I come in with my left hand. That's another thing. You want to be somewhat ambidextrous. And I'm going to hold on to that jewel, and I'm going to put a smear of oil right there. This is close-up work. I'm doing this kind of far away right now because I have this microscope in the way, but I don't think that's enough oil, believe it or not. That is a small amount of oil. Let me come in here once again. So the technique is, depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed, I'm going to grip that stone. I'm going to put a smear of oil right there. Right in the middle. Okay? There you go. There's a decent amount of oil. I'm going to switch to my right hand now. You can see the oil in the middle. That still might not be enough oil. There you go. There's that smear of oil right in the middle. Got some stickiness on there. I'm having a little trouble getting more oil on there because I'm working with this microscope. But you get the idea of what we're doing. The reason you want to hold the jewel is oil's sticky. And if you don't hold on to the jewel, it's just going to stick to your oiler. And then you pick your oiler up, and then you have an oiler, a stone stuck to your oiler. So where this technique of turning things comes in, there's the stone and the oil, the capstone we call it. See if I can get you a shot of that. There's the oil right in the middle. Let go. I'm going to take this jewel, turn it over. Let me try that again. I'm going to take it and I'm going to drop it right on top. Just like that. That oil is allowing those two to cling together. So when you pick this up, it is one assembly, and you drop it into your balance, put in your shock spring, and you're good to go. So there's a little, that is the technique I use for oiling. It takes practice, it takes time, but if you put a jewel in backwards, you'll know right away. The balance won't run. So hope this helps.